Welcome everyone to episode 21 of the DJ and Heel Show. Today we are joined by an esteemed panel. First off, hiding behind the curtains is DJ, my co-host.
Not behind the curtains, more like hiding in the shadows in the closet. You know, I'm in the closet today. Fuck it.
You're
trapped in the closet.
Just like Jet. Of course, we got the host of Zeus Backstage, the honorary Zeus.
What's up?
And joining us today is Johnny Bottles.
Half of the Squared Circle Maniacs.
Yes. What's up, guys?
And soon, hopefully, we'll be joined possibly by another guest, but we'll see if he shows up. But let's get into it. Breaking news today, as everyone knows, there were 4 more departures from WWE. JC Mateo, aka Jeff Cobb, Tonga Loa, the in-ring general, and in a surprising twist, the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, announced that they have mutually departed WWE, and it has come out that TKO tried to get them to renegotiate their contract. They didn't like what they were offered, so they decided to ask for their release, which was granted.
I'm so sad to see Tonga Loa go. Like, I'm so sad to see him go because we will never be able to have the joy of watching him just fuck up everything. Like,
listen,
I've never seen a wrestler.
When he rolled off that table, that's when you knew he got his pink slip.
You got to think about it. That was just the last thing, but that wasn't even the worst thing. Think about it. He started off with botching a nut shot. Then he couldn't run someone into the corner. Then he hurt himself. I think he broke his arm botching something else.
He held the title upside down when he won the tag title.
Held the title upside down. This guy was a walking fuck up. Like, he was so bad. At first, I'm like, there's no way he can be that bad. He's just working us, you know, after the first few times. But no, this motherfucker was genuinely just that terrible. Like, my God. He, again, worst guy possibly we'll ever see to get television time in the modern era.
Have you seen clips of him from New Japan?
Him and Okada, yes.
No, the 619 as well.
Horrendous. The guy was so bad. I saw him when he debuted. I'm thinking, who did he pay off? He must be married to somebody. He must be married to Roman Reigns' wife.
He was a member of a family, a legacy hire.
Good Lord.
And yeah, I'm sad to see him go, but
no, you're not.
I'll genuinely miss the entertainment value he gave us from watching him fuck up everything. But JC Mateo or Jeff Cobb was he was one of the recent DOA versions. And if anything, Brandon, this reinforces how I feel about Hobbs. This is going to be Hobbs in a fucking year. Promise you.
No way.
No.
What, this time next year, you're going to be telling me, DJ, you were right the entire time calling it. You called it. I'm calling time of death this time. May of next year, Hobbs will be the next set of releases.
They literally just had Hobbs with Jacob Fatu.
Yes.
I'm just saying we just watched 2 guys in the past year with an Aleister Black and Jeff Cobb get signed and immediately let go because it didn't pay off. I mean, and JC Mateo, it wasn't like they didn't try featuring him. They featured him in the Bloodline with Solo. That's something. And it was fresh off of the Bloodline breakup, so it wasn't like.
I must have missed the JC Mateo interview on Stephanie McMahon's podcast, or JC Mateo's little promo reel where he's walking through his old neighborhood talking about how hard his life was, how his mother was an addict.
They're going to listen. They're going to try
they're putting everything on Hobbs. It's a great backstory, and they're piling everything up on Hobbs. They took him off of TV, put him on main event for a while, wrestled some dark matches before SmackDown and shows of that nature, Raw and all that. They are 100% behind Hobbs right now. Of course, that's all going to change. That could change in 6 months with this company, but I don't know how you guys. Zeus, how do you feel about this?
Well, all I know is that whatever we talk about, DJ is going to go in there and make it about Powerhouse Hobbs somehow, or Royce Keys. But no, I just can't. I can't call DOA on Royce Keys. It's just too soon. I was encouraged by what I saw last night with the interaction with Jacob Fatu. I didn't know they knew each other. So, that was nice. Because I was kind of like, when he had his squash match, I was like, oh, another one.
That's legit. There's actually photos of them, years and years ago on the indies. So that was just like.
Brandon, they wrestled on the indies together?
Yeah. Like there's pictures of them, like young versions of them that have been hopping around. So it wasn't just like WWE. Our other guest is here. Welcome, Kefis, to the conversation.
Prize running, bitches.
I think his mic's muted. There it is.
There we are. But yeah, like I was saying, Johnny, yeah. So they really did work the independents, you know, back in the days. It wasn't just like WWE creating a story that all of a sudden they got history. That was kind of legit.
Wow, that's pretty
Positive-
cool.
It was a positive sign.
Listen, I'm not saying WWE isn't trying with Hobbs. I'm just saying no one's going to give a shit. They had their chance to make his impact. You only can make a first impression one time, and his first impression was a popcorn fart. So I'm sorry. Like, they already got tricked. Oba and Javon pretty much made for the next few years. You still have Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu that they're currently elevating to that level. You still got some of the old veterans who are still there. There's no room for any type of serious push for Hobbs, and pushing him as a main eventer in WWE at this point is a waste of fucking time because they got enough of those too.
I don't think he's going to be a main eventer. I don't see him as a main eventer. I see him as a
No,
upper
but
mid-
the issue with
he's in his
WWE,
40s.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you on that, Wazoo. But the issue with WWE right now is their main event scene is so stacked, is that their mid card is full of main eventers. Any of their Gunther is technically a mid carder right now, main eventer easily. Drew, main eventer. Sunday Night, main eventer. The Usos, for lack of a better term, still are main eventers because they're with Roman. Where is any room for Royce Keys to stick out or anyone to give a shit for him in the WWE lore when it's at the moment so top heavy? He's going to get lost in the shuffle.
If you were booking, what would you do with Royce Keys?
Would have did the most obvious thing to do that they're avoiding to do because they don't want to make it too obvious. I'd put him with Ricky Saints. Put him and Ricky back together because that's when Hobbs had some of his best work in his career was when he was working with Ricky, when they were a viable tag team. And then when they did the breakup, and their breakup feud was one of the more anticipated feuds in AEW history until Tony botched it and only gave him 8 minutes because one of the matches before them went over. So, and Hobbs needs he can kind of talk, but the package of Hobbs would work better if he had someone talking for him. And Ricky would look a lot better if he had the Diesel kind of muscle with him.
Tell you what, that's a hell of a point. That really is. I mean, I can't see them being paired together all the time as a tag team, but, you know, when either one of them needs help, have them come together because the sum is greater than the individual parts.
Saying you push them as a tag team at first, you know, to get not only the tag team division over because that's floundering and they just gutted the division, and you can get Hobbs over as the muscle man, Ricky over as the talker. Then Ricky eventually turns on Hobbs because he thinks he's the dumb muscle guy. Then you could turn Hobbs babyface against the chicken shit heel. Because Ricky can get heat as a heel. I don't think Ricky as a babyface in the near time future is going to work.
So you would have Hobbs switch from being a babyface right now to a heel.
Yeah, as long as he has Ricky as his manager, yes. He'd be a lot more intimidating and a lot more fearful. It's really rare you see people genuinely want to cheer behind the big guy unless you're a guy like Oba Femi, Lesnar. I mean, and sadly, Hobbs is not that guy. If you want to get him over, you want to get him over the same way you'd get a Diesel over, a Kane over, an Undertaker over. All those guys had someone to help get them over. Kane had Paul Bearer, Undertaker, Bearer, Brock, Paul Heyman. You know what I mean? So, like,
but the days of the managers are pretty much gone now, with the exception of Heyman in WWE. It's a shame too, because there are a lot of people out there who can't cut promos that are good in the ring. Let's say like a guy like, I don't know, JC Mateo is good in the ring, but he's just bland as bland can be. If he had a manager pumping everybody up for this guy to be a killer, maybe it would have been different. Sikoa's not it. He's a good talker, but he's not a manager. I'm not saying they did a disservice to Jeff Cobb, but they could have done more.
Kefis, what's your thoughts on so far what we've been seeing out of Powerhouse Hobbs, a.k.a. Royce Keys?
Yeah, that he...
Hey, oh shit. Sounds like DJ's fucking Nostradamus over here, Brandon.
Because one person
you said
agrees
1
with
year.
you, that just because Kefis agrees with you doesn't make you Nostradamus.
Oh, but I'm saying it's if you talk to someone who's logical and is looking at someone with logic and you understand the history of WWE and how they work, you can see this shit from a mile away. There is no dip. Just because they're somewhat getting behind him doesn't mean that they didn't dig themselves a hole that they got to get fucking further out of. Just because they're filling the hole with water doesn't mean the hole still ain't there.
Why are you so negative?
He has been.
Who hurt you as a child? Who hurt you? Well, Kef, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm curious, your line of thinking. What would you do? How would you slot Royce Keys into a pay-per-view? Would you have him answer the Oba Femi Open Challenge? Who's Keys' career? Wow.
He'd be deader than shit.
Nothing. Well, he's done a lot of dark matches before SmackDown, and he was on Main Event. If anybody watches that, I don't know. I don't watch it personally, but no. So where do you go from there with Oba? I mean, it's an Obafemi problem.
Well, one thing we got to
I
understand.
think, yeah.
One thing I just want to say, we are talking. They're on separate shows, so I don't think they need to cross pollinate.
Well,
Oba's on
Gofa's on a
Raw.
separate
Oba
show
been
from Cody
appearing
Rhodes,
on-
but he was on SmackDown last night choking out Cody Rhodes.
Right, but
so-
I'm just saying you don't have to have
Yeah.
them. I'm saying you can keep them separate. Is
Right.
my point.
Sure.
It
sure.
looks like he's going to go into a program now with what's left of the MFTs. So it looks like he's going to have a match probably with Talatanga, which was the finals of the Andre, especially since they attacked him last night. I mean,
think it's going to be going into it's going to be like a feud. I don't see where Royce is going to fit in with the whole MFT moment. Roman's not losing at back. And I think that's going to be it for the Fatu Roman feud, like immediate storyline. There's going to be something related to the bloodline, maybe Fatu thing. I don't see where Royce Keys fits into that picture. I think we're clearly getting Talatanga versus Damian Priest. I think Damian and R-Truth are going to drop their belts over the coming weeks, and they're going to go back to singles. R-Truth is going to go back. Damian Priest is going to go back to his singles. I think Damian Priest is one of those guys where after this with Talatanga, honestly, I was really unhappy with.
I want to apologize for hijacking the initial fucking topic with my Royce Keys fucking.
That's a good conversation.
Yeah, and the thing about conversations is they're fluid. We don't need, we're not on a linear path. We can go anywhere we want. But I'm going to swing it back to. Go ahead, Johnny.
I was just going to say before we get off the Royce Keys subject, Danhausen needs a tag partner for Backlash against Kit Wilson and The Miz. And this is how you can really put Royce Keys over with the crowd, by having him be the mystery partner of Danhausen. Just say it.
It makes sense because the crowd loves Danhausen, and if they're going to cheer anybody who's with Danhausen. So, it's a cheap win, and people are going to shit on it because they like to shit on things, but I think it makes sense just to kind of stick him in there on a pay-per-view with Danhausen, and he'll probably get the biggest reaction of the night apart from Roman, which is crazy to say.
I think it's going to be Punk.
No.
I think it's going to be the zombified corpse of Hulk Hogan. Okay. I think he's coming out the grave. He's like, listen, brother, I got to sell this documentary. I'm not putting this guy over. He's going to come out, Fly still buzzing around looking like Beetlejuice, doing all the Hulkmania stuff. I'm just kidding.
Daryl Dixon chasing him to the ring with a crossbow.
So come on, DJ, real answer. Who do you think is going to be Danhausen's partner?
I mean, LA Knight's doing nothing.
Well, he's on Raw.
Yeah, we got.
I think that doesn't really matter now.
Brand split, LOL.
Yeah, they're not really honoring the brand split. I mean, Oba was on Raw and SmackDown in recent weeks. They're just not really honoring any of it.
When's the draft? Aren't they
They
supposed to
haven't-
have a
they're not
draft?
doing one.
There is none.
It don't exist. It was supposed to be April of 2023.
And if it's not
check my
Punk, I
watch.
think it's going to be the return of Sheamus.
I can see Sheamus.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Kefis, who do you think is going to be Danhausen's mystery partner?
Omos.
No, that would be kind of cool, but I think it's gonna be maybe in some time or someone who's obviously not in any storyline. But it's gonna be somebody who can win a handicap match.
That's why I said Sheamus. I think Sheamus would be a good slot for that. He's just coming back from a shoulder injury.
Sheamus Hausen.
As long as it's not Jelly Roll.
Yep.
God.
So let's roll it back. So we were talking about releases. We basically wrapped up with JC Mateo. They really didn't do him any favors in the way he was booked. He could have been used a lot better than he was. He got thrown into the MFTs because, people thought he was Samoan, I guess. He just, like Johnny said, he's bland.
He's
he just didn't have,
Islander. He's Guamanian, so they threw him in with the Islanders.
But it just basically, he's bland. He doesn't have a personality. So it is what
But
it is.
I was gonna say, let's get to the important part. The New Day is gone. The people who we thought were WWE lifers at this point, at least, especially Kofi Kingston. He's been there for almost 2 decades. Hasn't realized until they said it that he's been there for fucking 18 years. Like, that's fucking crazy.
But let's
But
also,
that go
I
ahead.
just want to get to the actual detail. They were not released.
Or-
They
Go ahead.
TKO wanted to renegotiate. They just signed a new 5-year deal last year, like 6 months ago, and apparently TKO wanted to renegotiate the contract because apparently they both were making 7 figures each. So whatever TKO came back with the number, they were not happy, and they decided to ask for their release instead. So I just, for the context, I don't want, a lot of people like, oh, how could you release the New Day? How can you release Kofi? They chose to walk away because they
They
didn't
Bret
like
Hart. They pulled the old Bret Hart on them. They asked Bret to fucking sign the 20-year, $1 million a year contract, and then reneged on it a year in. That's exactly
But it
what happened to
happens-
Bret. Vince did to Bret, and that's kind of what TKO did to fucking New Day right here. They signed them to the 7-figure contracts because they didn't want them going across the street. And they wanted to keep them loyal, so they fucking signed it. And then they instantly reneged on it because let's all be honest, 2025 sucked. Yes, they made a lot of fucking money, but they lost a lot of interest. They lost a lot of fans who were willing to pay that money, ergo why they've been hiking up prices. So people who are going, who will pay those prices, can still pay them and they can justify what they're doing. But they pushed a lot of people away. Remember, 2 years ago, we couldn't stop hearing about the fucking sellouts. Non-stop Raw and SmackDown attendance sellouts. We don't hear about that shit no more. We don't hear the word sellout unless it's a PLE, a major PLE. And they're doing it in big ass venues enough, and they're getting paid for it. And the town, not the towns, but the cities that place they're having it is helping them promote it because they're paying them to do it, hold it there. So they're going to make their money no matter what now. It's not like they have to worry about drawing the house to make the money. They're making their money before they even have to draw the fucking house.
They have lost money. Nick Khan just said in a town hall for WWE employees, their business is down 1-2%, just negligible, nothing to worry about. They'll get it all back. Their social media numbers are through the roof, DJ. I don't know how you can say that there's no interest. They're losing interest. Their views on social media, and they scan all this stuff with AI. It's through the roof. I mean, it's more than any other wrestling company, or you'd be hard pressed
Interest to the point of getting people out to see
buy
your
tickets.
product in person.
Right.
Like, it's okay if the circus
Right.
makes front page news, but who's going to see the circus? If there's no one there, what does that matter?
To their base. And so I think the viewership is going to be inflated right now just because sharing this
Well, that's
below anyone else. But circumstances currently are making viewership higher than what they normally would be.
Well, that's why they bring those guys in to drive up those numbers. It's all part of the plan.
Typically,
Mhm.
so
I got
like,
you. Yeah.
yeah, it'll stabilize eventually. Now, as far as New Day being released, I deal with contracts. It's one of my businesses. I deal with a lot of there are what are called trigger events that to be, but I'm certain.
Am I right in saying, Keithus, that these things are well known to the talent? This isn't something sprung upon them. They know about this when they go into it. Yeah.
Kefis, would their merchandise be something that might fall into that?
Like if they
We got some statistics here on the average attendance for Raw and SmackDown Q1 year over year. So Raw is down 11% Q1 2026 versus 2025, and SmackDown down 4%. So there is definitely a drop off in attendance for the main
And I
two
think
shows.
that's more of a reflection on how bad last year was instead of how they're doing this year, because I feel like this year is going to be kind of more them getting stable. I don't think they're going to get far worse than the drop they have last year. They're not going to drop 11% again next year in attendance. I don't think it's going to keep going that far. But what I am saying is, at least creatively, for the past 16 months per se, WWE has been pushing away people and doing everything that they shouldn't be doing.
But question is, it's creative or is it pricing? Because obviously ticket prices, are pretty up compared to what they were a year ago. So
If the show was good, people would pay those prices. It would be
but what's
would
good?
justify people
What's
being
good?
able to pay that price.
That's subjective. What's good?
People feeling pleased in masses. If you're pleasing the masses, that's why 2020 was so good for WWE in such a hot year because
But
they were
their
pleasing
attendance in 2024 was worse than it was in 25 and 26.
or not 24, 23. I'm sorry. That was the
That was even
beginning of the
lower.
story. I'm talking the beginning of the story, not the ending.
So they averaged 9K in 2023, 10.5K 24, 12.5K 25, and they're on 11.8K average this year. So the
11
attendance
really?
year on year is going up. Yeah.
Well,
This is from
something
WrestleMania.
you guys have to consider also, like I'm positive this is the case, but entertainment, WWE has an internal grading system for each of their talent. Guarantee it. You know, call it what yellow and green, just for the sake of
They've admitted that already.
yeah.
That's already
So
out there.
so I with New Day and with a lot of other talent, I guarantee, but I'm willing to bet that might have a trigger event in their contract saying, hey, you drop to yellow status based on this and this criteria. We are now open to renegotiation. It nothing we'll ever know, honestly. New Day reveals it, but I don't think they will, because they probably have some sort of non-compete
NDA.
or NDA. But these things, like, again, there's no sense in asking what with Roman Reigns, like, because he went from a relatively, I wouldn't call it full-time schedule as a champion, but he was present far more, to a very, very, very part-time position. So I guarantee that, again, they have to play. They're recreating based on certain criteria. And I'm willing to bet that it happens a lot more frequently than we know about.
People
And
can
Ro-
say what they like about TKO, what they think about TKO, but these people are very smart people and they know what they're doing. So they're going to do everything they can. They've got all these things in place, things that we don't even know about, doing all the hard work for them. They're going to make sure that as a publicly traded company, they're filling their legal obligation to the shareholders as much as possible. And that is the name of the game, unfortunately.
See, that's where I somewhat disagree with you, Zeus, only for the fact of, if we use the WCW as kind of the template, as kind of the, starting point of a corporation owning a wrestling company. WCW had no idea what to do with, or not WCW, Turner had no idea what they were doing with WCW. Ergo, they weren't doing anything until Bischoff, a guy who somewhat came from a wrestling background, got involved, wrestling and television background, got involved and was able to make some magic and do what he did for those 83 weeks. But the reason those 83 weeks stopped working is because the Turner execs got more involved when they were more successful, because they thought, okay, this is successful without us. We got to attach ourselves to it, because now if it's successful with us, blah, blah, blah. So I think in terms of saying TKO has a plan and they kind of know what they're doing, I disagree. I think in terms of running a business, you're correct.
Yeah, making money.
But running a wrestling company is a completely different ball game than running a normal business, because you're not appeasing to a normal set of customers, if that makes sense.
But I think what their goal is one thing, and that's to make money. They don't really care about what the product is that's making money. They have a legal obligation from Wall Street and the shareholders to make as much money as possible. And there's this talk about how they only pay 15% revenue share to their talent, and the reason is because if they raise that, then Wall Street gets involved, shareholders get upset, and you end up in a big mess. That's just the nature of being a publicly traded company. But I just think that the people they have in place are there to make as much money as possible, and they are very good at doing that.
And to Kefis's point, Romans, I read that they just signed a new deal. Like, his contract was coming up towards 42, and he just signed a new deal. So maybe that's part of the reason why we're seeing more of Roman Reigns every week. Maybe TKO.
And it also might be release as well, because releases happen to almost reinvest money, don't they? You release talent that you're not using so you can reinvest in the people that you are going to use more regularly. And I'm sure Roman Reigns got a nice pay rise. So it's just a circular economy, isn't it?
But TKO also probably might have said, we're paying you 1.5 million a year, and you're only showing up 3-4 times a year. Netflix wants, is complaining because they're only like at 2.8, and we need to get it to 3, and you're a proven draw. So, you need to earn what we're going to pay you. So we need you to actually show up more often.
Did they?
and Hulk and all of them. It's it's well known now that they're offering guarantees, and that was basically unheard of at the time. Um, and that I don't think that element has changed. I think it's just more so relegated the absolute superstars.
But to swing it back around to the New Day, I also think because there is a 90-day no compete for the two of them, I also think that if things go the way they're going, I think there's a good 50-50 chance that they end up coming back. I think that TKO is gonna hear the buzz of, AEW is interested in the New Day. I think they're gonna come back to the table because they're technically still employed for 90 days. Maybe offer them something that's more to their liking, and I think there's at least a 50% chance that in my eyes, that they end up staying.
They did the same thing to Braun Strowman. They wanted to redo Braun Strowman's contract. He was making $3 million a year. And that boggled my mind with merchandise and, his guarantee and everything. $3 million a year they were paying that guy. And they said, TKO set him down and said, we can't keep doing this because you're always hurt and, you're hardly ever on TV. So he left amiably with those guys. And he says, I got this TV show coming up on USA. They said, if you ever want to come back for a one-shot appearance here and there, we got no problem with that whatsoever. He says, I would love that. So that's where he's at right now. But where do you see New Day landing? Or are they both going to go back into the wrestling business? I'm sure they're very well off.
I was gonna say the thing
Kofi
with
Kingston, will he open up his own chain of coffee bars? Kofi's Coffee? I mean,
Kofi's Coffee.
What would he do?
No, I think with Creed, I think he's pretty well off, especially with the YouTube channel and how well immersed he is in the video game community and all that. He pretty much had a fallback after wrestling if this is it for him. I don't see these guys going to AEW unless they want the money. If they want the money, please go. By all means, ignore me. Go drain the billionaire. He will pay you, especially if you tell him how much WWE was paying you. He'll give them fucking $1 million a piece to wrestle for him for a year or two just to get the fucking pop. He'd definitely do it, but I don't think it'd be good for them. I don't think they do anything for AEW. They get a nice 2-week pop and then become one of the guys. So Kofi, I don't know. It depends how loyal they are to WWE. If they think they, just need some time away from WWE, we can't miss you if you don't go away. The New Day's been together for 12 years now. So I think we need to kind of go away so we can miss them for a bit.
Are there any tag teams that have been together consistently longer than the New Day?
Bucks, that's it. And that's just because they came out the same womb together.
All right, outside brothers.
I mean,
maybe
LOD,
FTR.
LOD, Road
How long are they
Warriors?
together? Yeah. 12 years is a long time to be in like one stable, especially how bad it started as well. Remember how bad the New Day started with that gospel gimmick?
Rock and Roll Express.
Mhm.
They were going on the indies until Robert Gibson could hardly walk anymore. And Ricky Morton became a solo.
Yeah, but to answer your question, Johnny, I think they're going to go to AEW. If they don't stay with WWE, I think they're going to AEW. I think the dream match, and I use that very loosely, with the Young Bucks, because it's something that they've been talking about, because they're all friends. They do the video game thing, with Omega and the Elite. I think that's going to be something that they're going to want to do. I don't think they're going to just go off into the night. Creed's not going to just, do his video games. And then, he has a PhD or something too. I don't think Kofi's going to just retire. I did say earlier in the day that Kofi might retire. He is 44, but then people were bringing up about, this past stuff with the Young Bucks and them really wanting this match. So I think it's possible. I don't think it's going to be like a 5-year deal. I think it might just be a 1-year contract, but I definitely could see them, going to AEW to do these couple of matches with, whether it be, the Young Bucks or FTR or whatever. Oh,
Do you guys remember the gaming TV network? But I'll use that word network loosely.
yeah, that's where,
Austin Creed was on G4.
right.
In the last iteration when they brought it back to life. He was a host on there. He did pretty well.
Now, the other thing is they've been doing the up, up, down, down channel through WWE. So I hope he protected himself with that. And it's not something that, WWE has and then he can't.
I think he would still do that show because TKO probably doesn't even realize that they own up, up, down, down.
Yeah.
They
I
don't
mean,
know
I
anything
think
about
he's
that.
I mean, I think he's had Cesaro on there still. He's had Adam Cole on there still.
Yeah.
So I don't. You're probably right on that. But yeah, I think if they don't stay with WWE, which I think, like I said, is a 50% chance, depending if TKO does come back to the table with something good, I think they are going to go to AEW. I mean, think about it. The Bucks really aren't doing anything right now. They teased a title match, whatever, but 90 days would be just before All In.
Well, they're going to get an offer, definitely.
So, the new day, the new era. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the
could
young
be.
Bucks against the new era. I mean,
Yeah, well, they're going to be called
the new era.
the old day, yesterday.
But obviously it's not going to really affect WWE, financially, creatively, because the tag teams division in WWE is pretty much on life support.
I was
But
going to ask you this. It seems like for the last couple of years, I remember a couple of years ago making a YouTube video about how lifeless tag team wrestling felt in general. NXT, WWE, even AEW a couple of years ago wasn't looking good. And it seems to have gotten worse, especially in WWE. And it almost seems like a concerted effort where there seems to be an acknowledgement that maybe tag team wrestling is a bit of a lost art and they just don't see the money in it anymore. And that's why we're seeing tag teams getting released. The tag team division is not taken seriously. You had the Usos as the champions, and they had like one defense and then lost it. You've got R-Truth and Priest as the other tag team champions. And it just feels like they're doing it now because they feel they have to. And I don't think that they acknowledge that, maybe they've done some numbers and they just think that it's not a draw anymore. This is not worth us doing it because, have times changed? Is tag team wrestling just dying out? That's what it feels like.
I think it's also financial. I think Vince was always of the idea is like, why do I have to pay 4 guys to main event when I can only pay 2 guys? So I think, a lot of it boils down to that as well. But I also think it also falls on Triple H. I mean, if Triple H, for the first half of last year, it looked like, at least on SmackDown, he's really building the tag team division up. And once he got to SummerSlam, we had that ladder match that was, really great. And then everything with Andrade happened. And then it seemed like he just gave up on tag teams after that. So
He
I
loved
think
his tag teams in black and gold, didn't he?
Right.
Black and gold,
So,
a great tag team.
FTR wouldn't be around. The Street Profits wouldn't be around except for all that. So, I think it falls on Triple H for the creative point of, if you built your tag team division up, they could draw money. I mean, look what Vince did with 3 tag teams in the early 2000s. The entire tag team division was the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardy Boys. They're, you had the lower, the headbangers, and all that shit. But that was pretty much, your tag team division. Everything was built around them. They would hot potato those tag titles every week.
So it's always been lackluster. Even under Vince,
Right.
The tag team division has always been lackluster.
So I just think that, Triple H gave up on tag teams, and that's why you see these makeshift tag teams
Have you
on
seen
both sides of Raw and SmackDown.
Have you seen what Angel and Humberto have been posting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fadeaway graphics.
The Thanos snap fade away from, yes. I think they're going to be out the door, if not now.
I took that as because they both lost to Royce Keys.
Could be.
That's what, because I believe they're working AAA. So, yeah. Same thing with the War Raiders. They're down there doing work. Ray Phoenix is down there. He's hiding his head because,
Wonder where
he heard cuts around. He's hiding down he's back down south,
Did you see the poster for Night of Champions that's coming up?
Night of Champions? No, I
Night
just
of
saw the
Champions.
backlash one.
There's a poster floating around for Night of Champions, and it's got all the champions listed on there. And the one thing that stands as Obafemi is on that poster. And
They're going to do King of the Ring there?
I don't know. I know it's
Maybe?
where champions wrestle each other or whatever, what have you. I think that's what it is. What the gimmick of Night of Champions is.
Right, for the ring.
But
Because now they
Penta is not on the poster. So will Penta be losing his belt to Obafemi? Right. Too many moving parts.
That's the problem. You got TKO running the show. WWE is trying to do their wrestling thing. TKO keeps getting involved, whether it be, creatively or graphically or, AI, what we saw on NXT. And, we could kind of transition into the whole AI conversation from this past week.
Night of Champions, what's the guy's name? Clavicular? You know who I'm talking about? The guy who just OD'd, the YouTuber.
Well, yeah,
Clavicular in the main event.
Triple H. Every ounce of heat where everyone on social media is like, oh, look, Triple H.
I think it's a simple thing of people are shocked that, like, Mark Shapiro said that TKO, has final creative control. Like, no shit. They own the company. That's like Disney saying that Marvel doesn't have they don't have creative control over Marvel. You own the entity. Obviously, you're going to have a final say if you so choose to use that in it. So, do I think that TKO is making every decision week to week? Absolutely not. I think the crap we see on SmackDown, the sometimes subpar we see on Raw, the week to week. I think the only thing that to really blame on TKO is the insistence of throwing Pat McAfee into that story. I think that was I think that stuff with Ari deciding because, Ari's his agent and all that stuff. I think that was legit. I think that people are using the TKO portion as an excuse to kind of give Triple H a pass, but I don't think it's something that TKO is doing themselves. Because yes, TKO is about making that money, but I'm sure they also don't want to look like idiots to like people. Like the optics of TKO don't want to look like they're the ones who are bungling this. It's like it's funny because I don't really follow UFC all that much, but from what I understand, it's not what it used to be. But I guess TKO gets blamed for that. They're not blaming Dana White, right? But maybe I'm just misunderstanding, and maybe it's just a completely like apples to oranges type of conversation.
Well, TKO is the common enemy at the moment, isn't it? Because of a lot of young wrestling fans, particularly, they have this kind of the big bad boogeyman is the rich person, and TKO is the big bad boogeyman in this scenario, and they're ruining the product that I love, and they're kind of conflating the bad creative since they took over kind of thing, even though it was bad for years before. So yeah, I just think they're an easy target. But I think you're right. I don't think that they are. I don't think they're booking, Sami Zayn to murder a gingerbread man live on television. You know what I mean?
Rest in peace. Just take
Rest
a moment of silence.
We'll get to that. Yeah. But no, I don't think TKO is booking that. I don't think, TKO is booking all the stuff on Raw and SmackDown. That falls on Triple H. And, for me personally, I know it's not for everybody, but it's been poor for quite a while and boring and just not very good in large parts. There's been some things that are good, but as a whole, like I was talking to someone the other day and we were saying how much we enjoyed WrestleMania Night 2. And I said, when was the last time you really enjoyed a WWE pay-per-view / PLA prior to WrestleMania Night 2? And I think I went back to like either SummerSlam or maybe like Crown Jewel, which was like 7-8 months ago. It's just this long stretch of just not a lot happening.
Several months ago was a match, and I agree, it was a really good match. It was a stipulation match. I think WWE is afraid to run stipulations. And when they do run stipulation matches, tag champs, because they're involved in the bigger storyline, the big creative. Tag teams, as a general rule, in that. The Dudleys, the Brood, and the Hardys, they kind of had a storyline of their own, essentially, for years. It was sustainable. And the Usos, they're very sustainable, but everyone else is lacking. Everyone, I saw a few people on X are like, oh, I can't believe they released the Motor City Machine. Dude, those guys good in ring, but aside from that, they had nothing. They were boring. Absolutely boring. No
Because the machine-
personality thing.
Nothing.
Right, which is why you will fail in WWE, because you need to have personality. You have to have that character to go with what you do in the ring. It's the same thing with like a Shelton Benjamin. He never really got to where if you based it simply on his in-ring talent, he should have been a multi-time world champion. But he just couldn't cut a promo and he didn't have the personality. And that's kind of what happened with the Machine Guns. Yeah, they were, they're good in the ring, but they just didn't have the personality.
You're not going to get over in WWE like that.
No.
Right. So,
And look at everybody they've released.
I mean, honestly, 30 names or so that's been released. Is anyone really like, the sky is falling for WWE the way everyone's making it out, like all these releases. Oh, this company's done. If they keep releasing people, I saw one guy made a list that these people are in danger, and they're all like lower to mid card guys. And it's like, and someone,
Yeah.
right?
I always feel that when people get upset that people get released, it always comes across to me as like a selfish endeavor. Because it basically sounds like what they're saying is, I don't want them to wrestle anywhere else. I want them to wrestle in WWE, which is the only wrestling I watch. Because in theory, a release is not the end of the world for a wrestler. In a lot of cases that we've seen, it's freedom. You look at Drew McIntyre years ago, Matt Cardona, Cody Rhodes, like them getting fired / released basically made their careers into what they are now. So it's not all doom and gloom when somebody gets released. And, I know Kairi Sane's the big popular one this week, but, she may go on and have a much better time elsewhere. And that's what's best for her. So I never understand all this kind of, fake empathetic outrage for people getting released, like as if like you're in their head and you know exactly what they're feeling. They might feel it as a relief and they can go do their own thing. That's just how it works. Nothing. Yeah. So disappointing. I was so disappointed with how that played out.
Which again, you're going to blame TKO for that, or you're blaming Triple H for that? Which
Vince
goes back,
McMahon, Vince McMahon would never fire all these people.
That one, so the heel turn,
okay.
that one I blame Triple H, blame TKO. But the New Day, I don't think they're big enough for TKO to get involved in that.
And to Johnny's joke, that's the revisionist history that, TKO is so much worse than Vince was. It's like the people bring up celebrities. Yeah. Literally WrestleMania was built on the back of celebrities. Vince wouldn't release these people. Are you kidding me?
COVID hit, 55 people he released.
Like seriously. Like in 2020, yeah. So, the fact that we're like romanticizing Vince McMahon, because he wouldn't do these things when he's literally done everything that TKO did. The only thing TKO does differently is they got rid of house shows, which I think is a huge mistake because it hurts the talent. Because they need those reps and they need the practice and they need that break when they're wrestling. When the cameras aren't there all the time. They've had more fun during those things. And you don't got to do every single weekend if you think it's going to like suck up that much money. But you could do, every other weekend, do 1 or 2 house shows,
In Florida, right? Where NXT is. And every weekend you hear, coming to the Lakeland Community Center, NXT. And they run a whole laundry list of like, I know that person, never heard of her, never heard of her, never heard of her. Don't know who that guy is. That tag team's never made it to TV. And those guys from the Performance Center are wrestling in front of a live crowd, maybe 100 people, 200 people, but at least it's something. I mean, they had Omos in there one time as in the main event for an NXT show down in, I think, right outside of Orlando. So they are
they had the Street Profits a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
They had Rusev a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You need those house shows. They run the house shows for NXT, like you said, mostly around Lakeland and that area around the Orlando area.
Right.
Because even the guys who aren't on TV yet, they need to get that practice in front of a crowd, especially these NIL people who have never worked a match in front of a crowd.
Have you seen the one girl they just brought in from the NIL program? I forgot her name, and it's a shame, but she's in white face makeup with a black line coming down here called The Unknown.
The Unknown, the Unnatural.
Unknown.
Yeah, I saw that on X today. Yeah.
Yeah. Curious as to what that's all about. They're trying out different gimmicks for these people, which is great. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program.
I just think it's a mistake to get rid of house shows altogether because you need it. You need to be able to practice. You can't just, softly do it before the show. This crop of talents haven't been raised to be calling it in the ring. They're so, they're handheld so much and so choreographed that they are unable to call in the ring. And that's when a lot of botches happen. And I think that's why, things look so choreographed because they're not just naturally doing it.
Right. Well, it's not like the old days, pal, where, Stan Hansen would say, well, call it in the ring, kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're rehearsing matches in the arena before the crowd gets there. It's crazy.
But the whole point of my rambling is just, to say that Vince didn't do all these things when Vince laid the blueprint for them.
Yes.
It's things that Tony Khan does when it comes to contracts. Vince literally walked so Tony could run, or whatever. I mean, it's like, it just seems crazy to me that after everything, we're romanticizing Vince as being, he would never do that. If Vince had the chance to raise ticket prices because WWE got that hot, he would be raising ticket prices. I don't believe that he would like keep them low, for the families. I don't buy that because you know what? He decided to go public and he still would have to answer the shareholders.
Yeah, exactly. They've been public since what, 99?
Yeah. So so if the shares were 150 share, and he has to, appease those shareholders, he's going to raise those ticket prices. Maybe not as high as TKO has, but let's not pretend like demand. Right. And let's not pretend like Vince was a saint when it comes to business. DJ, you quiet? DJ? Did he fall asleep? All right, maybe we lost him. Maybe he's watching his favorite Royce Key match.
He's got a choice of two.
Well, I mean, maybe
Zeus, you're a hard man, I tell you.
he had 3. He's had 3. If you
All
ca-
right, 3.
if you count the Andre Battle Royal.
Okay, that was a great match.
Yeah. But Kefis, where do you think the New Day lands? Did we lose Kefis too?
Zeus, where do you think the New Day lands?
I think AEW. I think they're going to get an offer of
There
big
he
money
is.
and they'll take it.
Conglomerate.
Harley, Cameron, the Babes of Wrath.
Days of Wrath. New
But
Day
you'd
in the
also
conglomeration.
But you also want to do something different. You don't want to come in and be like the Hurt Syndicate and, just heat up the nachos from WWE. This gives them an opportunity to maybe, try something different. You could still be, Kofi and Austin Creed, but, maybe you don't have to do the exact replica of what we've been seeing for the last, 11, 12 years.
Just saw this coming to a Waffle House in Kenscocken, Ohio. Tongaloa.
He's working there?
No 90 days for him.
Waffle House Wednesdays. There you go. Tongaloa.
I'll put butts in seats.
Butts and stools at the counter.
Well, Johnny, you said you're in Florida, so what's your Waffle House order? I'll ask the standard AEW question.
You got to have the 2 eggs sunny side up with the bacon and the hash browns. You got to have that. And a cup of Joe.
I went down. I was in Florida back in June. I went to the Waffle House for the very first time, and I'm sorry, I was not impressed.
It's a low rent Denny's.
Yeah.
If you go there at 2:00 in the morning, chances are you'll see a good 5-star match.
I heard all the hype of Waffle House. I was in Florida. I was in Tampa. I was like, you know what? Last day before I'm coming back, I'm like, I got to go to Waffle House because the closest one to where I'm at is up in Allentown in PA. So I'm like, okay. It was overhyped.
It can be, yes.
Yeah.
But you have to go in, walk in, no one expect, what you're going to get. You're going to know what you're going to get when you go in there. It's going to be just heavy on the grease. Go ahead.
Let's switch the conversation to last night to SmackDown. I know Zeus has been wanting to talk about it. Do you know the Muffin Man?
Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man! The Gingerbread Man.
Here we fucking go.
Here he goes. Where
He
were
woke
you?
up.
We were calling
We
on
woke
you.
him up.
I know.
My bad.
So
I'm alive and I'm here.
I don't hear
Yeah.
a denial there that you were asleep or anything like that. Not saying anything.
But I do know
Okay.
the Muffin Man.
okay.
He touched me when I was little.
Hey
And now
now.
the Muffin Man is doing 10 to 15 years.
Okay, so
kidding.
let's talk the SmackDown elephant in the room, and that is the Sami Zayn, Trick Williams, and the Muffin Man, the Gingerbread Man thing from last night. That we're now transitioning to a funeral for the Gingerbread Man.
I went through so many emotions with this. So, first of all, when it happened and Sammy was just doing his best Ric Flair impression and just elbow dropping that thing, and I thought, okay, this is pretty cringe. But when it went backstage, I think the ref put the X up. And when it went backstage to Kathy just
No, it was
in front of a doctor's room.
Trick
Trick put the X up. And then when it went backstage to Kathy in front of a doctor's room, it was just so kind of old school British comedy that I laughed. And I thought that, okay, they're just being stupid on purpose, which I can appreciate. But it just kept going. And the doctor came out and said he died. They put up a memorial graphic. Then they advertised a funeral for next week. And it was just one of the weirdest things I've ever seen on a wrestling show, honestly, ever.
Zeus,
And I think that includes the pandemic.
how do you F up Trick Williams? How do you do that? But he got that. He's that over. And
I
you
don't
just,
think
He's making the save for a gingerbread man.
This is okay. First off, the best part about it is the meltdown of the IWC for me.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
Well,
I think they're using this Gingerbread Man thing to do the double turn because Trick Williams played the babyface last night.
Mm-hmm.
He came out for the save on the Gingerbread Man. He chased Sammy off. When Sammy was in the backstage with general manager
Cody.
No, the GM.
Nick Aldis.
Nick Aldis. And he's like, are you guys messing with me? Are you guys messing with me? And even Aldis started laughing when he walked away. I mean, it just, to me, first off, they brought the Gingerbread Man thing in to make fun of Sammy to begin with because of the red hair. They removed Little Yachty. I'm assuming he's done. So that's why they took him out.
He's training for a match, pal. They're going to have him at a pay-per-view in a match, tag teaming with Trick Williams. He's already said that in interviews. Both of them have.
But, well, either way, I think this is just first off, to get rid of it. And on top of the fact, I think they're using it just as a vessel to do the double switch. Because we even kind of saw it, with Cody and, the insincere thing that Sammy was saying to Cody. So I think a lot of people are, first off, wrestling can be stupid sometimes. It could be corny. It could be cringe.
My God.
It could be. We had RoboCop save Sting, for God's sakes. Okay.
Mae Young gave birth to a hand,
I mean,
Yes.
a white hand.
and it's the kind of thing that it was like, it's so bad. It's
That was
funny.
an in vitro mix up there.
Yeah. To me, the gingerbread man stuff is so bad that it's funny. It's so like Zeus said, it's so cringe you can't help but laugh at it.
Yeah, it's because if they're trying to do something serious and then it comes off as really cringe, but you could tell that this is a deliberate attempt to just be as ridiculous as possible. So as bad as I thought it was definitely by design. There's no way that someone pitches this as a serious idea and say this will really go over as a serious idea. They knew exactly how ridiculous this was.
I mean, you could even hear in Trick's backstage promo, he was not being serious with that promo.
No, he wasn't. No.
He's talking about Lash getting that, he gets that ass from Lash, from the Legend. The doctor comes out, he's shaking his head. I just think a lot of people are just taking it so out of sorts instead of just, rolling with it, have fun. They're going to do the thing next week. Probably, Sammy will go through a table or get thrown into a casket or some stupidity, and then they're going to move on from it. And a month from now, you're not even going to remember it.
Well, I will say is I knew what we would get on social media is the 2019 comparisons from this segment. And I know why, because 2019, I think, was when you had Bobby Lashley's sisters, that segment, with Sami Zayn, actually, funnily enough, which was Max Caster, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that was truly terrible. Truly terrible. But it kind of reminded me of that in nature, in terms of how ridiculous it was. I think this was probably better than that, but not by much, if I'm being honest. But I guess we'll have to see how next week goes. But it just needs to be done over very quickly, because the last person you want to, I don't think it's going to harm Trick, but the last person you want to kind of take these risks with is someone like Trick. This probably could have been done with Danhausen and The Miz, if anything.
Are we done with the fluffing? Are we done fluffing WWE over this? Because we know damn well, we know good and damn well, if Tony Khan did some dumb shit like this, we'd be spit roasting him over the fucking fire, and rightfully so.
Okay,
this
but
was
the difference
bad.
is,
Oh no!
There's a big difference.
I let you fucking fluff.
It wasn't fluff. But let me just
let you fluff these motherfuckers.
Let me respond to your one thing. 1 second, DJ.
You're gonna let me tear these motherfuckers to pieces.
I'll let you have your say. I just want to say one thing. The difference is WWE's presentation is completely different than AEW's. That's why if this was done in AEW, you're telling me I'm wrong? I'm not.
Yes, I'm telling you completely you're wrong.
No,
at least in this specific instance, I'm telling you you're wrong. I'm not saying overall. Overall, in most arguments, you're correct. The presentation of WWE and AEW are completely different, but that does not apply to this context. You're putting your potential star. Fuck Sami Zayn. Nobody gives a shit about Sami Zayn. If this was just left alone to Sami Zayn doing this dumb shit and he killed him off, fine, cool. Well, let Sammy do the dumb shit. It gives you another. It's a heel getting heat. But when you're using your potential baby face to try to get your apparent new heel over while killing some of his luster that he has, and also turning people away from this bad television. It's not that they're going to associate with Trick being a star. They're going to start associating him with being a part of bad television. So no, I'm not giving these motherfuckers a pass for this. I'm with the for once, I'm with the IWC on this one. Because why the fuck are we doing this? What the fuck was this? This was Vince Russo-esque. This is something you would do if Russo was on the fucking writing team giving you ideas to do shit on TV. Let's do the death of the gingerbread man. Like, get the fuck out of here.
When's the last time they did something like this? Because it did feel out of character for the current administration to do something like this.
Exactly.
That's what I was. Not even that feud, but Trick. It's going to associate him with bad television. And
this reminded me of...
we're going to give it WWE a pass because it's WWE. And no, we got to hold these motherfuckers to the same standard of wrestling that we hold AEW or any other company that does some dumb shit like this. This is almost the equivalent of TNA doing a fucking murderer mystery at the end of their show. Who shot John? Like, come on, man. Like, if that shit's bad, this shit's bad.
Well, no, we've been saying that the WWE product's been poor for a long time, and this
No, I'm
segment
just
last
saying
night,
this specific thing deserves to be raked over the coals.
It reminded me of what you'd write in a children's book to teach them what right and wrong is. It came across as kind of like
You're
insulting yeah, it's like insulting the audience's intelligence, this kind of stuff. And yeah, I got a kick out of like the one bit when Kathy Kelly stood somehow straight-faced in front of the doctor's room. But yeah, the segment overall, it was just very weird. And again, like I agree with what Kiefer said, is that it's just not necessary. It's not necessary.
If Sammy would have rolled up outside at the loading dock in his Escalade with Little Yachty, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, as he gets out of the vehicle, Zayn rolls up with a baseball bat and just waylays Trick Williams and beats the hell out of him. You got a heel right there. The heel turns there. And then the next time you see Trick Williams go into a match defending his title, Sami Zayn interferes, runs in, DQ, no title changes hands, beats the hell out of Trick Williams. You've got the heel turn right there. Why all this Sesame Street bullshit with
to say,
a
notice you
gingerbread
didn't
man?
bring up the words gingerbread man in any of your fucking spiel right there. The word gingerbread man had nothing to do with anything the fuck you just said.
Exactly.
Again, it's cool. It's cool when Trick does it as a one-off thing, as a comedy thing to get on Sammy. You feel me? To use it as a thing to try to bury Sammy when he's the heel in the fucking feud. But when you're bringing it back and you're using it as a storyline, you know, as a week-to-week thing, like, no, it's like the SpongeBob ripped your pants joke. Yeah, it's funny when SpongeBob rips his pants the first time, but when you do it 30 fucking times, the joke's not funny no more.
You know, I thought when I saw that Sami Zayn and Cody segment, I thought to myself, well, Sami could easily be a challenger for Cody. It would make total sense. And I thought that's what they were going to go into. I didn't think we were going to get Sami and Trick after Mania again. I thought we were just going to go, Cody needs a new challenger. Obviously, that's probably going to be, I don't know, but Sami Zayn would make perfect sense. He's been talking to Cody for weeks and months now with the whole Randy thing, and he's transitioning into a heel. It will be perfect.
Well, what it's looking like now, Cody and Gunther's going to be a thing. It's Cody and Gunther.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what lemon pepper steppers are and why do I need them in my life?
Are they shoes? I assume they're
I
shoes.
think they're shoes.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Do you know the reason why Trick Williams wears the white outfit all the time? You ever heard this story? He was getting ready backstage to get ready. He was in gorilla position. And Michael P.S. Hayes walked up to him as he's walking the gorilla position. Go, where's your white coat? What? Because he had on a black leather jacket. Where's your white coat? It's back in the locker room. What? Go get your white coat. Get your white suit on. That's you. That's a good look for you. We need you to wear that suit. Every week he's got to wear the white outfit. Every week. This is the mentality of these people who are running this show.
Michael Hayes giving fashion advice is,
Yeah.
is definitely a choice.
It works, though.
What's
works
next?
in this case.
Trick's going to come out every week with a fanny pack as well.
And a handlebar mustache.
The Men's Warehouse. Here's Michael Hayes for the Men's Warehouse. Where's
One thing I
white
will-
So
suit?
let me get this straight, guys. So in the last few weeks and months, we have had the centerpiece of the world title feud be Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll, and now the centerpiece of the US title feud is the Gingerbread Man, deceased.
That's about
Pretty
right.
much.
That covers
That's a
it.
very
That covers
strange run of events, isn't it?
That covers everything, yeah.
One thing I will kind of push back on that DJ said is, even when this is over, I don't think this is something that's going to hang over Trick Williams, indefinitely. I think it'll be forgotten about. I think it's almost like, no one really remembers Sammy with doing all the jackass stuff at this point. So I think, I
Fuck
don't
you,
think
I
it's
remember
something-
that.
Yeah,
but
but
he
he's
went on
right.
to be
Brandon's right. The IWC's
bloodline.
memory, their memory retention is very, very, they've got a limited memory retention.
Kyrie
I'm
Sane's
just
already
saying-
forgotten about.
Right. I'm just saying, I think after once Backlash is done, he beats Sammy again, we see a full turn, whatever it might be, and Trick moves on to Carmelo Hayes or whatever it's going to be. I don't think that this is something that's going to drag him under, that he's going to be seen less than a star, is my point. I don't think this is an albatross around his neck for the rest of his career.
This is something.
No, it's not that bad, but this could be the beginning of a bad trend for Trick Williams.
It could be the sort of thing. What they do is they give him a shitty feud or a shitty plot and see how he runs with it. And then they take him to the next level where they give him something something that's gold that he could deal with. You know what I mean?
If
So
he's at
almost like a
SummerSlam, with Hansel and Gretel, we'll know it's not going well.
it's not good. No, it's not good.
No.
The Three Little Pigs. No, it's not good.
Yeah. Big bird coming out with him.
They're gonna change Little Yachty to Lord Farquaad. That's gonna be his new.
Why is Maxine Dupree dressed like Little Red Riding Hood? What's going on here?
He's a great heel.
Mhm.
I mean, I'll give you, it was stupid to begin with to even bring it into the, build to WrestleMania. Why they continuously to do it, don't know. But I honestly, call me stupid. I just didn't hate it as much as everyone else. I mean, I look at it as, WWE's going to do stupid, corny shit.
The best thing you could do is just look at it and say, this is the part of the show for the kids, okay? The Danhausen shit is all for the kids, even though I find it entertaining also. And the gingerbread man aspect of this, it's for the kids. Hopefully this goes away fast. But I just saw something on Twitter from WWE that there's going to be a funeral for the freaking gingerbread man next week.
Which is the
Round to
end.
dress
but
in black, guys. Get your black suits on.
The gobbledygooker will be attending the funeral of the gingerbread.
I just lost my thought. What I was gonna see to Kefis's point. They brought the costume out as the build to Mania. They used it last week for the heelish Sammy hiding in the costume to get the one up on him. It could have ended there. Like there was no reason to bring it back for Sammy to, like you said, Johnny, to pull his best Ric Flair impression on it. And start elbow dropping it like Flair would
Ripping
do
his
to
arm off
jacket.
and pulling the gumdrops out.
Yeah, and then going, even if you did that, then to do the whole, he died, and they're on the socials, they're showing him being carried in the back, and then it is what it is. It's WWE, but I just don't think, like I said, I don't think it's something that's going to derail Trick Williams' push and rise.
When are we shitting on AEW? Is that scheduled into the show? Are we doing that?
Well, I had one more question on the gingerbread man thing.
Go ahead.
Do you think we are going to get an AI generated video package in tribute to the gingerbread man next week?
Yes, definitely. We're going to get a AI generated,
Vignette.
To Creed my own whatever.
My
what was the song?
sacrifice.
My sacrifice.
Yeah. Scott Stapp.
Okay.
Danhausen reading the eulogy.
Yeah, and do a 30-second. Like, I hope they take the ropes down, do the whole thing, remember when
The whole roster comes out on the stage.
Yes.
Remember when they did comes out.
Remember when they did the wedding for Loomis and Indy in NXT?
Yes.
Do that, have seats, have people, have Bischoff do that. Put the old man makeup. Do you? Did I say 3 minutes? I mean, if you're gonna go corny, go.
Bring out the Pillsbury Doughboy. Have him be reading the eulogy.
Hot and fresh.
Hot and fresh. Yes.
There were a couple other things that happened on SmackDown. It wasn't just the terrible things.
Was
there
there?
are a couple other things of note. Keith Saints made his main roster debut on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
He's a SmackDown superstar now. There is closer to a chance they can do Royce Keys right, because him and Ricky are now officially on the same roster. Let's hope they do it sooner than later. But I think he did one of his more solid promos in WWE against Cody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was because he was more comfortable with Cody. Cody's his friend. They've already done this. This isn't something they haven't, already pitched to each other. And this was kind of inevitable. So the fact that they used this to kind of, give Ricky a start was a really good touch. The match they had, I thought was a good debut match for Ricky. He shouldn't have beaten Cody. I mean, unless they were going to immediately do a him and Cody feud, which I had that thought process after the promo. I was like, are they going to really just start him and Ricky right now? This would be great. But they did the match. He beat Ricky. Then Gunther comes out and chokes out Cody. And apparently that's what we're doing with Gunther.
Well, the Gunther thing was weird because everyone was saying, why is Gunther attacking Cody? It's like, Gunther wants the championship. There you go. Done.
But brand split, LOL. But it goes back to my point I said in the beginning, though. Brand split, LOL.
Yeah, but they haven't acknowledged the brand split for years, have they? But when's the last time they said on commentary, that person's a Raw superstar? I don't think they've acknowledged it for a long time.
They haven't.
I think they just kind of...
It's been a couple months. They haven't acknowledged it for a few months. I know they did before WrestleMania season, but I think since WrestleMania season, yes.
But I think that what they're going to do is they're just going to move people around without doing a big song and dance about it. Like, they're not going to do a draft and paste TV time. I think you might see Gunther is now a SmackDown superstar and they're just going to move people around.
I mean, if you think about it, you're trading Jacob for Gunther.
Essentially, yeah.
What about Rhea?
Rhea
Well,
as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Then you got
Well,
the
she's-
Usos.
No,
And SmackDown needs
Roman's holding it
superstars.
till SummerSlam.
SmackDown needs superstars as well. I don't think you need the evil trade.
Yeah.
Supposedly 6 months. He's straight every week, 6 months, and then part-time after that. That's the rumor.
Well, real quick, Kefis, the reason why Roman's booking seems more has more direction and more coherent is because I think there's less hands in the cookie jar when it comes to purely Roman's creative. When you're dealing with Roman, you're dealing with mainly Paul, Triple H, and that's it. Paul
Michael
Heyman
Hayes.
is in charge of almost everything Roman does, per se, who he's working with, breaks down how the feud's going to go, what story, you know what I mean? It's kind of its own universe compared to everything else on the roster.
Yeah.
He literally said all that
He
last
said
night.
all that. Yeah, he did.
Literally everything. He said at the end, at the very end of the show, he said he's gonna tell Roman, "I'm gonna dog walk up."
Fatu thing is his new catchphrase now. That's what they're gonna be putting on T-shirts and shit.
It was a two-man effort that night. Like both of them nailed it that night. Yeah, I think I see some people. Sorry, I see some people saying that, oh, we don't need Bloodline in 2026, as if it started in like 1983. Like it's like I don't see why not, because the Bloodline, the advantage the Bloodline has over other storylines is that Roman has a kind of base as the Bloodline. So Roman has so much kind of lore, if you will. Whereas Cody Rhodes, for example, he is kind of starting a story with somebody and then finishing it, and then starting a brand new story and then finishing it. And they're all just kind of little tiny stories that aren't very significant. Wolfpack Bloodline.
They already did that. That was the MFTs.
Yeah. Because it has the advantage of being weekly episodic television over a long period of time, which is the reason why we watch TV shows.
Do you know what I always compared the Bloodline to, in the way, not so much the episodic part of it, but just the way that, you could end it, go away from it, still use it to elevate people without directly doing it, and then bring it back. Raven and Tommy Dreamer in the original ECW.
Mm-hmm.
That went 2 years, that feud went, and it wasn't a straight feud. Like, Tommy would be feuding with Raven, then he would break off to feud with Brian Lee, because Brian Lee was still associated with Raven, and it elevated Brian Lee, and then you went back to Raven, and then eventually Raven left, and then Tommy didn't have a partner, and then Raven returned to be his partner, and it's still
Yeah.
But my
Rock
whole
and
point
Stone Cold was
is
similar as well.
right, but my whole point in that is this: the way the storyline is it doesn't have to be a straight A to Z storyline. You can veer off and hit the pause button on it, so it could still be hanging around, and then you could go back to it. So I don't think it's something that and I don't think it got bastardized as much as the NWO. I made a post early this week. There were 79 members of the NWO over the years.
Jesus.
70.
And how many of those are actually really significant?
Yeah.
Like less than 10, maybe.
So, I think going back to the Bloodline is not a bad thing. This is who he is. I just hope they're not changing it, because they tease like being called the First Family or something like that on Monday. So I hope they're.
I think the issue is with Roman, well, not an issue with Roman, but the issue people have is that Roman is so popular, and obviously with popularity comes polarization. Same thing with Rhea Ripley. And when you have this online only, because that's what it is, it's an online only war between Roman stans and Cody stans going back to WrestleMania 39, then there's going to be, tribalism within that feud itself. You're going to be either Team Roman or Team Cody, or Team Roman, Team Punk. And the people who are on Team Cody and Team Punk, they're going to hate Roman no matter what he does. And that is what we're seeing here. And I just don't see why people can't just take a back seat and just enjoy both.
I also think it's the almost WWE fan civil war. Who's the true face of the company? So you're arguing between Roman and Cody, and they're using like Raw ratings to show that Roman is better than Cody, but they're leaving out the context that the Raw ratings are global, while the SmackDown ratings are simply just the US. So like I saw a post that like 3.3 because and Roman was on Raw the night after WrestleMania. Like the night after WrestleMania, Raw is not going to have the highest rating of the year anyway, Roman or not, versus Cody that had like a 1.2 last week, but then they were up against the NFL draft and the NBA playoffs and the NHL. Yeah, but my point, right? But my point is that I don't think people are tuning out because Cody's going to be on TV. So I don't think it's a fair to use ratings to say that Cody isn't as good as Roman and he's not that much of a draw as Roman when it's not an apples to apples comparison. Yeah, but don't you agree that it's not a fair comparison to use the night after Raw episode? Yeah, the night after WrestleMania Raw, as
Yeah.
right.
I also think
Deejay.
that I don't really think it's Cody's fault because I've seen Cody do some good stuff when given the license to. I just think what he's been tasked with doing and the stories he's been involved with have just been really boring. And that's a bad look on Cody. Not to mention he's had 2 WrestleMania stinker main events in a row. So the optics for Cody are bad. But I've seen Cody do some decent stuff. He's done it. I thought I enjoyed the Kevin Owens stuff. That was really good. Yeah.
And that's probably why the last 2 WrestleManias were not very good matches.
And and don't forget, look at who he was in there with: Randy Orton and John Cena. Like, to have 2 WrestleMania main event stinkers with those 2 guys is not a good look, no matter whose fault it is, and that is going to fall on Cody.
Well, I don't like Cody
Whether it's true or
Rhodes
not.
personally, Zeus, but he did have a lot of interference from TKO in those 2 main
He
events.
did, yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
He hasn't.
Yeah, but
he hasn't really had the best of it with the corporate involved. But he is the corporate champion, isn't he? He is the face of the company, so that is just the spot he's in. And I do feel for him in that regard with the Travis Scott stuff and the Pat McAfee stuff, both of which were absolutely terrible. Let's be real.
Where do you see him
The
going in a
matches-
year? Brandon, where do you guys? Well, all you guys, where do you see him going in a year? Cody Rhodes.
Cody?
real quick,
Heel?
even before the celebrity interference, those matches were not going very well. Travis Scott came out at the very end. McAfee was taken out early. He wasn't really involved in the match until the very end, and all he did was do a count, and then he got RKO'd. So I mean, I can't. The story, I can blame TKO for involving those factors, but the match itself, you can't blame Travis Scott and Pat McAfee.
No, but I think the build up to those matches really hurt the matches themselves. Like, Cena's heel turn at the moment was fantastic, but what we got after that up until Mania was pretty terrible because he wasn't there since last year.
I feel that I'm wondering how much that had to do with Randy's injury because we haven't seen Randy since.
With that injury, was Meltzer right? Meltzer said that he was hurt going into the match.
I mean, it looked like it. It could have been selling, but we haven't seen Randy since.
You're right.
But he was selling an injury like a babyface going in as the heel, and then he RKO'd Pat McAfee to babyface. Then he punted Cody afterwards to be a heel, and we haven't seen him since.
Right.
And none of it just made any sense. It could have been done, whether he was injured or not, that match could have been produced way better. Like, one of us could have produced that better, even if Randy was injured.
But I want to answer Johnny's question. I told Zeus this earlier in the week. I actually had a crazy idea for turning Cody heel. What's the one longtime faction that WWE has never brought in that would fit Cody in the way he dresses, the way he looks, the way he presents himself?
The Authority? The Four Horsemen.
The Four Horsemen. What if you have a connection to his dad? You have a connection to, it's not there's more than one royal family. What if Cody reformed a version of the Four Horsemen, literally called him the Four Horsemen? Who's one of his closest confidants? The Enforcer, Arn Anderson, and what if it was, I randomly named, what if it was him and Ricky Saints and Drew McIntyre and I had said Trick Williams. I was just throwing names out trying to think like who would look good in suits, and it could, I kind of like went with that. I was kind of fantasy booking that, that could be like,
You can see it and have it be a bunch of former AEW guys too, just to add the caveat to it. Have it be like Ethan Page, Ricky Saints, Cody.
Yeah.
Hobbs.
Ethan Page would be great.
Hobbs could be the because you could have Hobbs be the
Hobbs could
enforcer
fill
guy.
the Luger role. Yes, Hobbs could be the Luger role. That could be another thing to save Hobbs too. If Cody formed a Four Horseman kind of group,
got
you
him
throw
back.
Hobbs in there.
You've got to.
Would that make you happy, DJ? Would that kind of change your mind completely?
It wouldn't make me it would justify his existence. That's my whole you guys think I'm just angry and I'm anti Hobbs. I was one of the people saying this was perfect, him going to WWE. Then they fucked it up, treating him like every other normal person that they fucking bring in. But yeah, we're gonna treat him just like how we treat fucking Rusev.
So you know what gave me the idea? I think I don't know if you saw my tweet. I had posted a tweet earlier this week about the Four Horsemen, which version was the best horseman. And not to toot my own horn, but both Tully Blanchard retweeted it and Lex Luger liked it. But I digress. So it kind of gave me the idea of, turning Cody without needing to go like the full, heel, but still keeping who Cody was with the championship, having these guys protect him from the championship. And he could still think that, because as a bad guy, when you think you're doing the right thing, it kind of justifies yourself. And I always go back to like Magneto from the X-Men. He felt he was doing the right thing and by any means necessary. So I feel like Cody could, after everything with TKO getting involved, Cody believes he's the guy who can steer the ship correctly, so to speak. So by any means necessary, he's going to get these guys to make sure that he's the champion because it's the best thing for business, not to use, that authority vernacular. But so I just was thinking about it. I just felt like if he reformed the Four Horsemen just based on the history with his dad, his closest confidant being Arn Anderson, it just, to me, it all kind of made sense. Plus, come on, we've never had the Four Horsemen, the name in WWE.
Yeah,
you're
right.
You know what the irony would be? The irony would be that he'd be more over than he is now.
Yeah. So I feel like that ship got killed with the, when Vince brought it back. Yeah.
Yes, NWO and 316 are the top two.
Would you trust Triple H's creative? Okay. Yeah.
You'd have Twinkie the Kid as a member of the Four Horsemen.
That was just my fantasy booking during the week, and I had actually told Kefis about it. So since you
it's
asked,
more interesting than what we're getting now.
Yeah, since you asked about where I could see Cody in a year, I just thought that would be like kind of cool because there is the connections to the old school, and Cody has the relationships with people from the Horsemen. I mean, honestly, you could even throw Charlotte in there as a person.
Yeah,
like seriously, shit, bring Tessa in. Here we go. Bring
My
Tessa.
God, yes.
Bring Tessa in. There's a tag team. They have that thing.
Right now at a bar in Tampa, Florida, Ric Flair is saying, "I'm getting ready for another run."
Royce Keys,
Carmelo Hayes, Obafemi. Yeah.
The only thing is we are not bringing Brock Anderson into this equation. I do not want Brock Anderson. We're not having the second generation Horseman include Brock Anderson. I don't care.
Well, if you bring back NWO, you got to bring back Buff Bagwell. Yeah. So that's all I'm saying.
Limp along.
All right. Well, quick next topic real quick, because this is something Brandon brought up earlier and I had an idea for it. So Brandon got into it with our old pal Ricochet, and it was because Brandon posted up something on Twitter asking the question, and this is the question I want to ask you guys: who so far is your wrestler of the year in 2026? Because for me personally, up until about 2 weeks ago, it was MJF. Easily MJF, I would say, is the wrestler of 2026. He was helping his company regain interest that they drastically did everything in their power for years to push away. He was the focal point of their main event scene. Guys were getting over because he was the guy on top. Swerve's heel turn doesn't be effective. Hangman Page doesn't be half as interesting that he was for the year so far. Darby Allin wouldn't have gotten any buzz if he didn't mention the name MJF. Brody King with the fuck ice shit. Everything was centered around MJF. And in terms of, at least in the wrestling bubble, he was able to get his name higher than what it was in past, because he definitely had a bad 2 years before that, with injuries, not being around, the Devil storyline. So I would say so far my wrestler of the year, forgetting about the past 2 weeks that just happened with Darby being champ, MJF would be my lock-in for wrestler of the year so far.
I agree with that. I don't think the last 2 weeks changes the conversation with him being wrestler of the year. Just because he's handed bad creative doesn't take away from him as being what he's done. And I don't think anyone on the other side of the pond, no pun intended, Zeus, in WWE has earned wrestler of the year.
Not even the closest thing they've got right now is Oba.
I wouldn't even consider him wrestler of the year.
I would, with how hot he's gotten and how big of an impact he's mean to the WWE bottom line for the past 2 months, at least since his Saturday night's main event in December. ever since that moment with Cody, Oba's been on the top of the moon for WWE.
Well, what's the criteria here? Is this like the whole package wrestler, everything, wrestling,
Yes.
in ring, promos, star power? Yeah, MJF easily for me. I can't think of anyone else who comes close, really.
Johnny?
I'd agree with you. And Zeus, MJF, he's carrying the whole promotion on his back. I mean, he's the biggest ratings draw. Back when when Brandon Thurston used to post the quarter hours, a whole ratings chart where it would show every quarter hour what went on in that quarter hour. MJF had the highest numbers every quarter hour. Every time he was on the screen, more people watched the show than all the other pieces of business they did, with the exception of Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was the second highest. We looked at that shit on our show at a granular level, and that's what it came down to, MJF and Samoa Joe. So Joe's been gone for a while. He just came back. MJF's been carrying the whole company on his back, and they made a mistake of taking the belt off of him for the crash test dummy, and this is what we've got.
He is their Roman Reigns, isn't he?
He's no Roman Reigns now.
Do you think it was? Why do you think it was done? Do you think it was because they wanted to steal a headline for the week from WrestleMania, Johnny, or do you think it was just TK doing what Tony does? And
not everyone we watch on TV in either company is always a good guy behind the scenes. LA Knight's got a big mouth. He's always running his mouth backstage. I could have done this. We could have done that. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? He's just a pain in the ass backstage. It says it. Sami Zayn also. But Sami Zayn's on TV. Well, they're both on TV a lot, but they're never really given the brass ring to really run with in the heavyweight championship. So, what you do backstage and how you interact with your bosses and the other people backstage will reflect in your standing in the company and your appearances on television. I think MJF pissed some people off backstage. He's taking some movie roles here and there. Maybe he's got a swelled head. They're not all good guys. The people you look at Ric Flair, the way he is now. They're not all good guys backstage. Even though they play baby faces on TV, or they could play the heel of the century on TV, they're not all good people. So maybe he's just pricked somebody the wrong way backstage, and they decide to take the belt off of him. He's getting too big for his britches. Take the strap. Give it to Darby.
But even if you're going to just to put it back on him, I mean, that's not really we've seen TK doesn't really like punish people. I mean, look, he took Ricochet off TV for a week after that whole thing.
He does like to punish people, Brandon, but when he does it through other people to make the other guy look like the bad guy, not him.
I just don't think it's humbling to what they're doing. It hurts AEW and it hurts MJF more than it's doing to punish him, assuming that he needs to be humbled a little.
The thing with MJF being on top, and not even just him being on top, the way he was being used, it felt like how when he first came in, Tony was using him perfectly. Use him on TV for promos, have him wrestle sporadically on television and on pay-per-views. MJF probably wrestled 8 times a year on AEW the first year, at least on television. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't wrestle a lot. They kept him sporadic, and they kind of did a good job during this title reign, other than the squash to Brody King. But that at least was justified compared to the ending. But they did a good job of keeping his wrestling down to a minimum. And when he did wrestle, he was wrestling 30, 40-minute bangers.
Mm-hmm.
Like those were some of this year he's had some of his best matches in all of his entire AEW career.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is going to be this, I think, right now is MJF's prime. At least in AEW, definitely. This is the best we're going to get of him. We're not going to get anything any better than what we just had right now. And like I said, the only reason I said I took the past 2 weeks out in terms of making my judgment, because if you do add those in, it does tarnish it a lot. He just did a squash angled job to fucking Darby Allin, which was basically what it was. And
2 minutes.
He just lost again to Kevin Knight.
But the match was really good. So if you're looking at, you can't look at it just simple wins and losses. If we're looking at, the catalog of his matches, that still holds up to the rest of the year.
Oh yeah, 100%. And there's no one on WWE or NXT or TNA has come even close to his level. Like, he's definitely on an island of his own this year.
So he's on the level with the devil, you're saying?
Sure. But I just think this kind of encapsulates a problem, though, because AEW right now has the hottest wrestler, arguably the hottest wrestler in all of wrestling right now, in MJF. And I don't understand what they're doing now with the parts surrounding him in terms of Ospreay. We're going to middle him with the Death Riders, Swerve with Bandito in the mid card. Brody King's nowhere to be seen. Hangman's been MIA since he lost the belt.
Brody King just wrestled Darby Allin for the title the other day.
In
the main event. It was the last match on the show. Yeah, it's very, very he three coffin drops.
You know what I mean? Until then, where the fuck was Brody King? You know what I mean?
Tagging with Bandito, and then Bandito disappeared from TV, and that's what you got.
I don't think your world title should be done in an open challenge for him, and that's what Darby's pretty much doing.
They turned the world title into a mid card title.
Yeah,
like that's what it's come down to at this point. It's not that MJF got a demotion. And that's what I initially said, and I don't take that back. It's that the world title got the demotion.
You know, it's funny. Roman said something on his promo on Monday. It's like the man makes the title or the title makes the man. And that's literally what's happening with AEW is Darby, who's a mid-card guy, there's no argument about that, is making the title less important because he just wants to have these matches against anyone, you know. There's no story behind them. Everyone complains, you know, about the U.S. Open Challenge with WWE. There was no stories. It was just matches. We're doing that, but it's one thing to do it with a mid-card title than it is to do with the world title.
MJF made that thing feel important. He made it feel coveted. And the issue with them putting the belt on Darby is they have no heels on MJF's level, barely even on Darby's level to fucking challenge him for that belt. None whatsoever. They had all the baby faces in the world for MJF, but
the majority.
Because can I ask you real quick? Do you see Dominic Mysterio someday eventually being a main eventer?
Good upper mid card guy. Yeah.
That's where I slightly disagree with you, only for the fact that I think Dominic Mysterio is a main event character. Like as a wrestling talent, I agree with you on that end. But as the character of Dom Mysterio himself, I can see that being a main eventer for at least a year. Dom being a chicken shit heel, or even the underdog beloved babyface champion for 6 months.
JBL, that's pretty much what you're describing. JBL.
No, prime JBL was a main eventer. We're talking about now or in his prime?
Ever.
Don't let Leo hear you.
He would be a main event wrestler in AAA right now. Yeah.
I think that's a distinction a lot of people, you know, misconstrue and don't understand, which is probably why you get heat for it, is they think because someone was a world champion, that makes them a main event guy. And it's not simply just holding the title. That's like saying like Jinder Mahal's a main event guy because he was WWE champion. You know, no one's going to, you know, the Great Khali is a main event guy. He wouldn't have been released if he was God, where would you put Kane? In the context of the conversation, like, would you say he was a main event guy or was he a
special attraction?
I've always used Kane as a comparison when, you know, when they got guys who are at that upper mid card level that can stick their foot over the line and then put it back, stick their foot over the line and put it back because they're good to be thrown into a main event at a pay-per-view or for, you know, a program leading to a pay-per-view to help, you know, get over the champion. And then, you know, maybe they'll have a short run with a title, but, you know, he'll still go back down. Kevin Owens is like the same way. Like Kevin Owens to me is that guy who's right there and he'll take that step over the line because you'll be able to get a great main event out of him. But
see, hold on real quick. I just want to say KO is a bad example. I say Kevin Owens is definitely a main eventer. Has the resume for it. He's headlined 2 WrestleManias. One with Sammy, one with... No! Kevin Owens has had a multiple moments where he's been either a main eventer or in a highly featured match. Kevin Owens, I would definitely throw as the main event.
But Kevin has never been at the top. He's never been.
Yes, he has. He was the second. He was a Universal Champion, had almost a year run. Yes, it is. One of the most remembered runs of his career. Was literally a highlight of his career. He lost it in
less time than MJF lost to Darby.
Exactly.
I got to agree with you, especially the last couple of years of WrestleManias. I think I brought that up to you, maybe. I brought it up ever since WrestleMania a couple of weeks ago.
Say again?
I brought up a couple of weeks ago how, you know, Cody has to be looked at as possibly, you know, not being that guy, especially the last couple of years of the matches. You know?
Yeah, we talked about whether he was a mid-carder or not.
Right. So to Kefis's point, Cody has not delivered when it comes to, you know, the big match situations, the main events of WrestleManias. And again, removing the bullshit storylines and the celebrities the matches themselves before those celebrities got involved were not that good. So, if you can't deliver in the ring, how are you considered, the main event guy? Super Cena still delivered in the ring. Punk delivers in the ring. Roman, as we saw at WrestleMania, delivered when he tells a story in the ring.
You know who Cody reminds me of, Brandon? And you and Johnny are probably going to get a chuckle out of this because you two being the older heads of the group.
You son of a
Cody
bitch.
is the modern day Bob Backlund.
I wouldn't go that far.
No.
I would 100%. Think about it. If you think about Backlund's run and how forced it was and how forced down people's throat he was and how corporate of a champion he was, because Backlund was definitely a Vince guy, or at least Vince Sr., not Vince Jr. Like, this is what Cody reminds me of. He reminds me of a modern day Backlund.
The one thing I will give you on that is that Backlund pretty much held the title because he really had no real challengers. And that's kind of how it's felt with Cody, that, he really hasn't had anyone to really, there's been no one to be his Randy Savage to his Hogan. He's never had that defining, feud. I feel like that. Go ahead, Johnny.
Closest would be Roman to Cody.
Or Seth. No, I'd say Seth. Seth, too, to an extent. The starting feud when they started, that was a good feud, especially with the people are already forgetting about it. But the
Torn
tear
pec.
match,
What's that?
like when Cody wrestled with his pec tear.
Yeah.
When he took that jacket off and you saw his chest and how hellacious that match was. Seth and Cody was a really good feud. Seth and Cody really could have been that, long rivalry dynamic if they played it out longer instead of let's just do all the 3 matches at first.
The Cody Rhodes thing is like a Superman movie with a shitty villain. If you've got a shitty villain going up against Superman.
It's Superman 3.
Yes, exactly. With Richard Pryor in it.
Yes.
It's just awful. It's just awful. So you would need like an arch villain to go up against Captain Babyface, Cody Rhodes. And when they had Roman Reigns of the Bloodline going up against Cody, that's when you had a lot of drama. And that's the most memorable thing. The Seth Rollins feud, I had forgotten about until you mentioned it, DJ, to tell you the truth. Because of all the wrestling that we watch, that we're inundated with on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, you forget about these things sometimes. But that's a great point about the torn pec. That was his first year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's when he first came back.
Yeah. But the thing you remember about that is about Cody Rhodes and all his challenges, the Roman Reigns Bloodline feud, Cody versus the Bloodline. That's what I remember. And who do they have nowadays that can, fill that void of an arch villain for Cody Rhodes? You don't have it. Yeah.
I think what they've done with people like Drew is they've heavily relied on recently the kind of justified heel characters, the ones who are being a heel, but they're kind of right. They did it with Drew, did it with Kevin Owens, and they haven't really had any kind of real dastardly heels. And it's too late to do that with Randy Orton because he's Randy Orton. Everyone loves him. Gunther's the only one. Gunther's the only one who I'd say is a proper, legit heel at the moment.
So you're
No, but that my bad, Brendan. That's a really good shout out, though. That's debate. That's honestly,
he's done some great stuff this year.
debatable.
He has. You think how bad the show would have been without him this year? I think if you look at Raw this year, if it didn't have CM Punk on it, I think it would have taken a massive hit. Yeah, because like 9 times out of 10, you can always say that usually a CM Punk promo is probably going to be one of the highlights of the night.
See, it depends on how we're looking at it, because MJF is raising a sinking ship to where CM Punk's on a blimp right now that's slowly losing air. That's kind of how I'm looking at it, and I think it's more of an admirable feat that MJF is literally keeping AEW afloat by himself compared to Punk already being at that high of highs and having the helps of the Brock Lesnars, the Roman Reigns, the Obafemis. But I'm saying with CM Punk, there are other things to draw interest to the WWE product. If CM Punk was to leave today, WWE interest isn't going to fall through the roof. As we just seen through the past 2 weeks of ratings, at least for Dynamite, MJF not being world champion is fucking detrimental to their business. It's obviously showing that it was a draw, and it drastically decreases business when he is not the main focal point of that show.
I wish Johnny, you still were able to get those quarter hours, because that would really tell the story.
Right.
Because
right.
MJF,
Why don't they? Is it a Nielsen change?
Yeah, I think it's the Nielsen change, because it's
Okay,
not like
yeah, it's the big
MJF
data.
hasn't been on the shows even after losing the titles. So like people are making the argument that it's not like MJF is completely off the shows for the last 2 weeks and that's why ratings are down. You still have MJF on the shows.
He's not the focal point of the show
Right.
no more, though.
I know, I understand that, but I'm just talking from like, the excuses and what other people are saying. So I'm really curious. I wish we could see those quarter hours to see, is the MJF segment still up and it's the Darby segments that are down as of, you know what I mean? Instead
Right.
of, so that tells the story about the specific person if they're the ones that are affecting ratings.
If you look at the presentation of MJF and the smart-ass heel character that he is, self-centered heel character, he's probably the most UE character in AEW. Think about it. He's well-defined. You know exactly what he's all about. He's all about himself. He wants to be the champ, and that's it. And he's better than you. That's his tagline. I'm MJF, and I'm better. Very much so.
MJF's a lot younger and is definitely slightly better in ring, and I think is more of a student of the game. I agree with your comparison. No. I agree with your comparison 100%, but I feel like it's more of a 1970 Mustang versus a 2000 Mustang or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's where I'll disagree. I'll disagree with you with half of that. In terms of the character and promos, yes, he wouldn't be able to sit there and call people, dropping SF. He wouldn't be able to swear as much as he would. He wouldn't be able to go after the crowd as hard as he does. But in ring, I think would be a different story because MJF, he can work, and specifically to a WWE style. He hasn't, until the past couple of years, he hasn't really tried to work the AEW style of wrestling until he's kind of like, fuck it, I'm here.
I can name Edge.
He can hardly move.
I'll throw Lashley in there as well.
No, Lashley, yes. Rusev.
His finisher is kind
His
of
finish is the power driver. That's his finish.
it's not a full pile driver though. It's almost similar to a pedigree, but using the ropes instead of hooking the arms. Right, but he's also got other moves he could use. He's got a submission hold. He could use a submission hold. He could come up with a different move.
Kefis,
I still think he'd be one of the best promos in the company if
Right.
he came over.
I think it would be a testament to his skill if he could cut the promos without having to rely on the the crutches that he does get to have in AEW by the swearing and the insider terms and things of that sort. I do agree with DJ on the fact that I don't think he would be muzzled from his in-ring work. I think he would adapt to the WWE style because his style of wrestling is not, that like where the Young Bucks came from.
PWG.
Yeah, that PWG, ROH,
TNA.
balls to the wall type, style.
MJF is one of the actual few workers in the wrestling business we have left.
Right.
Like
He doesn't rely
in
on
terms of knowing psychology and knowing all the little things and doing the small things to help get people over. But I'm telling you, MJF can definitely do that because that's what he was doing when he started in AEW. He didn't start wrestling the AEW style of wrestling until recently, which is basically he's like, I'm not going to get all of these dumb fucks to wrestle my style, but I'll be able to wrestle their shit and get their shit in. MJF is just along for the ride at this fucking point and enjoying the paycheck. But if you put him in WWE and you give him some structure, he will definitely fucking thrive because he has all the tools to succeed. Start just inserting him right now into the card. I'd have him straight in the I can't put him in the main event scene because, again, the main event scene for WWE is way too fucking crowded. It's so crowded right now. Their main eventers are flooding into the mid-card. So I'd have no choice but to put him in the mid-card scene, but I'm putting him as the U.S. champion immediately.
That's a hell of a point.
So if I'm allowed to play off of their history, yes, that's the first thing I do. I'm lied. That's the first thing I'm doing. Him and Punk.
He doesn't have to be in the title picture, but he could be put in the main event slot.
He could be put into a main event feature. Yes, 100%.
And I honestly think Triple H would push him that way.
Not for a heavyweight championship, but for main eventing a Raw or a SmackDown, wherever he lands or whatever. Yeah.
Being featured with the main event players like a Roman, a Gunther, a Randy Orton, those guys, yes, he can be tangled with them and not.
I would have his first, if he came in tomorrow to WWE, I would immediately go right with Punk.
I would too, but I don't think, I know there's real heat and real animosity towards them, so I don't know if they would want to do it.
Well, I'm going just based on, their statuses right now. So I would put him right into a program with Punk.
Or him and Punk or him and Cody. He has history with the two top guys in the company
but we would
that
not,
you can play off with immediately.
Right, but we just said because it's so crowded, we would not put him right into a title picture. So if it's going to not be a title picture, but still be a main event program, I would go with Punk.
Because Punk has proven he doesn't need a title to be a featured marquee match in WWE. Drew is a prime example of that. The him and Drew feud was the hottest thing. It was hotter than any title feud that was going on during that time. There was nothing more important than that. Even when Drew was in the title picture during that feud, when he had to face Gunther and Damian Priest, like those were times where Punk said, "Fuck you, I'm about to take your title shot," and their feud overshadowed that. So, like, I definitely think MJF could be inserted into, featured with main event players right now. But if you're trying to use him to the best of his capabilities, you put a fucking belt on him and have him elevate a division. MJF could be also the type of guy. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Oh, straight to the main roster. The NXT, hell no. He's definitely has enough name and enough cachet to where you don't throw him in NXT. You can't. It'd be malfeasance and malpractice. He's not Blake Monroe. He's not Ethan Page. He's not Ricky Saints. He's been in fucking Netflix movies, for God's sakes. You're not going to put that guy in NXT and hide him away from most of your viewership. You're going to want him in front of all the eyes you can see to help you get more eyes on your already big TV show. No, I agree. I agree with the point you're making. Not title picture immediately. I agree, just because that right now is too flooded and crowded. But I can definitely see him featuring with me. If Brock was still around, I could see MJF being a guy shit talking to Brock or something. Or like I said, doing something with Randy, doing something with Cody, doing something with one of those main event players while they're not in the title hunt. So they're doing something interesting in between so they don't lose any luster off of them or something. So they're not just floating around doing nothing. I can see MJF being that kind of guy right now for WWE.
And no matter where he goes, if he goes there or not, it's going to be great TV. It's going to be great television. And Kefis, you made a great point when you said when guys leave WWE, they go to AEW. And they're 100% better wrestler there than they were in WWE. And you're right about that because they've got something to prove. They got cut by WWE, and now they're in AEW, and they want to make a new name for themselves. So
I think
they get freedom as well.
I also think it's the freedom to do the match. It's not AEW is not choreographed as much as WWE.
Right. Not micromanaged the way it is. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's also a very big part of why we see it different. I mean, the Ciampa we see now is the Ciampa from Black and Gold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he probably a little bit. He's a little bit higher than that, but that's as close as Black and Gold. Like the Andrade of now is better than the Black and Gold, but I think it's also has to do with experience.
And Moxley is not a good fucking example. Moxley is one of the few cases that got drastically fucking worse the longer he's been in AEW. Hell yes. There are Dean Ambrose matches that I will sit back and his entire US title reign, his matches actually fucking slap. The guy I see back then is not the motherfucker we are watching now.
Surely
Moxley
the biggest
has
example is
drastically gotten worse.
Swerve Strickland, surely the best example.
Swerve is a good example. There you go. But Moxley is not in that conversation. No, dear God.
I think Danielson was able to get back to that Ring of Honor era of his work once he left WWE.
Yeah, with the same amount of concussions too.
How do you think Will Ospreay would fare in WWE?
He doesn't like the grind.
It depends because I see.
He won't be wrestling like he does like that in WWE.
That's why I disagree. I think he's of the same mold of AJ. And a lot of people, when AJ first came in, didn't think AJ would have the success that he had. You know what I mean? They thought AJ would be just, mid card and middle of the roads, and not I think AJ had a way better run than a lot of people think he would have. I wouldn't say a complete mid carder. I'm saying when he first was brought in, he was brought in as a main eventer and slowly got pushed down to the mid card. Nobody thought he would have gotten the run he had, especially with the title and the matches against Cena. Him going over against Cena, like that's not. Oh, Austin, but hold on. We're not going to sit here and try to compare Austin. Not going to let you slide with that and just compare Austin Theory to AJ Styles. And the reason they did the job to Austin Theory because they thought he was going to be a star. AJ was not in early career when he first came. He was early in his WWE career. But I'm saying AJ Styles didn't beat John Cena in the beginning of his career. He was already an established star.
I agree with you, Keflis, on that one. That falls under, like we were talking a little bit earlier. And I think that was where Ospreay would fall. I think Ospreay would be that upper mid-card guy who would get a title run and then fall back down, and then eventually, they'll want to push him up again. So I think if he went to WWE now, he would basically be the replacement for AJ Styles. And again,
why are you saying it like it's kind of a down thing, though?
I was about to say, and that's not a bad thing. I was just literally, you cut me off.
I feel like we're not looking at AJ's run the way we should have, because AJ had a really good run in WWE for the run that he did have.
He definitely did. He held the title for a year.
I feel like we're just throwing the word mid-carder around now. I like, when I hear that word, I hear Kofi mid-carder. Okay, that you want to say mid-carders? Okay, Kofi's a mid-carder. Fucking
I think
Ryback's a mid-carder. Sin Cara's a mid-carder.
Sin Cara is a little lower.
I'm not throwing AJ in that conversation. I'm sorry. Like,
I think
AJ Styles is a mid-carder, I have to reevaluate like 95% of everyone I've ever seen in wrestling.
Right.
I want to say, hold on. I would not say Scott Hall is a mid-carder. Hell no.
I think we're good.
In the beginning, it depends on where we're talking in his career. Razor Ramon, mid-carder. Scott Hall, no, he was not. I disagree.
Did he win a world championship?
He was still a main event talent and featured prominently in the main event group.
Are there?
What about Jake the Snake? What about Jake the Snake Roberts, Mr. Perfect?
See, this is where
Jake was definitely a main eventer. Even before WWE, main evented in the territories, was a giant main eventer in the territories. Jake is definitely a main eventer.
I think we need to do, this is the level. There's mid-card, there's upper mid-card, and then there's the main event. And I think that's the distinction between that upper mid-card and the mid-card is where, I remember
Seth Rollins would be an interesting one.
You saw what Arn Anderson said a couple weeks ago in an interview. He said he was a mid-card guy. And there's nothing wrong with being a mid-card guy. Like I said, I think there's mid-card and then there's upper mid-card. Which is right, but like Scott Hall was upper mid card.
Mm-hmm.
Jake the Snake was upper mid card. Because Jake the Snake,
again, we're not throwing Jake the Snake as a mid carder. Fuck out of here. He was the guy, main eventer.
But he was the guy that Vince relied on to see if the guy was ready for home.
If we're talking just WWE, that's fine, but he was not a mid-carder. Jake the Snake was a main eventer before he got to WWE, way long before he got to WWE. Jake was getting paid bukus of dollars to go bounce from promotion to main event, to get their top titles, their top TV titles, and be pushed prominently. Jake was not no mid-card. That's why I'm saying the word mid, I feel like we're just throwing around the word mid-carder, because mid-carders are guys who are there just for entertainment value, who are constantly thrown in tag matches. No, and I agree.
So I guess like main event guys, I think I kind of agree with Keithus in a way that a main event guy is somebody who consistently for a long period of time represents where they are at that level for a long time, like a John Cena or Hulk Hogan, somebody who really kind of carries it on their back for a long time and isn't just a flash in the pan every now and then.
But by that, now in hindsight, yeah, but at the time of his like full-time career, that was The Undertaker, if you think about it. He never had long runs in the main event, more or less. He would come in.
Undertaker was just a featured attraction. Facts. Would we say Undertaker's a glorified upper mid-carder, or was Undertaker a fucking main eventer? Okay.
But I'm asking.
And also, how many people can say they main event in WrestleMania in a non-title match? They're 26.
No. Like I said, I agree with the point of Undertaker being a main eventer. I'm just saying, I feel like the line we're taking with it between mid-carders and main eventers is a little bit touchy.
And Zeus, Lawrence
It's not
Taylor,
even based on championships, is it? Because Undertaker... Yeah,
Lawrence Taylor could actually claim that.
If you ask any non-wrestling fan to name me a wrestler, they're going to say three names: Hulk Hogan, John Cena, and The Undertaker, probably,
or The Rock.
Well, The Rock, yeah. But they're the guys.
And Zeus, to answer your question, Lawrence Taylor could claim that he was a main event WrestleMania for non-title.
Yeah, Lawrence Taylor. Yeah. So Lawrence Taylor, The Undertaker, no difference between the two.
Last question on this subject real quick for Kefis, because I just want to get this point, just kind of gauge where he's getting this before we go. We are going to come back on this and tackle this on a bigger topic. Where would you put Mick Foley? Main event or mid-card?
Mid-card,
yeah. Mid-card. He never held that championship for longer than 20 minutes at a time.
Oh, I think on that.
I can't wait to have this conversation again.
Yeah, we're going to definitely extend this to another show. This is going to, really...
I feel like Deejay is just putting everybody as a main eventer, and Keith is putting everybody as a mid-carder.
Well, no, like I said, I feel like Shinsuke Nakamura, mid-carder. AJ, main eventer. There is a a fine line in between. Like Nakamura was just as much as a draw. I wouldn't say for the same amount of time, but for a decent amount of time as AJ was. So like, but they're not on the same level of star power. Mid-card, easily mid-card. I that's what I'm saying. I feel like mid-carders are guys who get one run and one run only, to where main eventers you get at least a minimum of 3 runs. If you get a
All right, one more. Seth Rollins.
nah, main eventer. Sorry. You got to throw. He has the resume. He's had enough main events. He's been featured prominently enough, and has definitely the longevity of it. Main eventer. Well, he's been hurt the past few years.
Exactly.
I mean,
He won the triple threat
that's
last year's Mania.
in this era where Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar pretty much dominated every other fucking main event. If your name is not one of those two, no, exactly. No, I'm saying though, Seth has 3 or 4 WrestleMania main events that, again, in a time span where you had 10 of them featuring either Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns. That's actually pretty fucking impressive if you got 4 of them on your resume and you're a main eventer and your name's not fucking Rock or Cena.
But I got one to argue with DJ on that one. What was all the main events that Seth Rollins was a part of for WrestleMania? What was the one common denominator in it?
Oh, Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns.
But I'm saying he's still, again,
And Brock Lesnar.
Seth Rollins has the Triple H principle. Triple H is a main eventer because he was the guy who worked with the guy who made the money. No, he was. But I'm saying that for that exact same argument you're making for Triple H, we got to apply it to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins has been featured just as much prominently as Triple H was. No, in the main event. Literally. The Authority, main event, Roman Reigns the first time, main event. There was a whole year where he was featured prominently in the main events, whole pay-per-views. He pay-per-viewed, main evented against John Cena, became a double champion. Yeah, a year or two. Seth has been in the main events for 10. Seth was never relegated back to the mid. See, this is where I definitely think you're 100. Right now, after coming back from being hurt, where was he before that? Hold on, where was he before that?
I think Seth is a case of really riding that line between the two. Like he's literally skating that line between upper mid card and main event.
He's been in the main events for 10 years.
Look what you did, Zeus.
I think the difference between someone like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns is that when Roman Reigns came back as a tribal chief, he never even sniffed anything apart from a world championship. Whereas Seth was kind of up and down. He had the US championship a few times. He kind of, and it's not a knock on Seth Rollins. I think Seth Rollins has done some of the best work of anyone over the past 5 years in terms of the work he's put in all areas of the card, so to speak. So I don't think whether you...
that one, I just vehemently disagree with you. He's been at the top of the cards consistently for 10 years. No, Drew hasn't been consistently on top for 10 years. I was gonna say Drew hasn't even been back for 10 years.
I think this is definitely another show that we could really deep dive and pull a list out. I think it's definitely a great conversation, but we're coming up on 3 hours. Zeus is waiting for the sun to come up over there, I'm sure.
Yeah, postman's outside.
Not on Sunday.
No, Sunday.
Not on Sundays.
No.
But I do want to finish it up by, just giving prayers out to Rebel, who got a very bad medical diagnosis. So I think it's universally agreed upon that, prayers are with Rebel. And but I appreciate Johnny. Thank you for joining us. Kepis, Zeus, of course, you, DJ. You got top billing on the show, so thank you for joining.
You know what they
Johnny,
say about people say a lot of things about Tony Khan, but Tony Khan's paying
Just
all
know you're getting a longly worded tweet, motherfucker, about this Seth Rollins thing. I'm just kidding.
People
Go
say
ahead,
a lot.
Johnny.
People say a lot of things about Tony Khan, but Tony Khan is paying all of Rebel's medical bills. She did say that.
Yeah, which is
And
great.
he's paying for Deanna Purrazzo to go to school, so that's why she's not on television.
Well, she's on ROH, but she made a joke about that.
Television.
But listen, I don't think, real quick, and then we're going to end this. I don't think anyone questioned Tony Khan being a good human being. He's just got questionable.
He's just dumb as fuck.
He's just got questionable creative decisions. But thank you everyone for joining. We will be doing this again every week. I think this was, a lot more productive than the old style. So we're gonna, keep it going.
No jets crash landing for fucking 10-minute fucking dialogue.
Yeah. Until next week, because I think we're actually gonna have him on.
Son of a bitch.
But I told him he has to be professional, so we'll see how that goes. But Kefis, Johnny, thank you. Zeus, thank you for staying up late.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we call it Zeus overnight, Zeus after dark.
Zeus under
Yeah.
the covers.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right, guys. Have a
Cheers,
good one.
guys. Bye.